Now, Labor frontbencher Jason Clare. Jason Clare, thanks for your time. A fellow Western Sydney MP, Craig Laundy, this morning rejects any suggestion that it was a gaffe from Joe Hockey, that he was simply stating the obvious, that when people go to seek credit from a bank, they need to show where the money's coming from.
Yeah, nice try by Craig, but look, it's a stupid comment. Most people know it's a stupid comment, and the big problem for Joe Hockey is it's not the first. Last year, as we know, he said poor people don't drive cars, and this just reminds people about Joe Hockey's bad judgment. The reality is that the great Australian dream is out of the reach for many Australians. The reality is that the price of the average home in Sydney is now close to $900,000, and the median income is about $57,000. So for a lot of Australians out there that are working really hard, struggling to save up enough money to get a mortgage, that are on about $57,000, being told by Joe Hockey just to go and become a merchant banker or a corporate lawyer or get more money seems very out of touch, and seems like a bloke who really doesn't understand what life is like in the real world.
But do we need more nuance in our political debate when you have a broader news conference where he talks about the complexity of this problem, about the supply issue, about what the government's doing on foreign investment, and yet we are all focused on one or two lines out of that particular news conference? Do we need a bit more context in what he's saying here?
Well, I think the problem is it's not the first. If it was a one-off, then you could forgive it. But this is the same person who said that poor people don't drive cars. I'm also critical about what Joe Hockey said when the Reserve Bank cut the cash rate a couple of weeks ago, where he said just go out there and borrow. I represent an area in Western Sydney where, when interest rates were at record highs, or not record highs, but at very high levels about 7 years ago, we had people losing their homes at 3 families a day. The banks were foreclosing because people couldn't repay their mortgages. And I'm worried that people are borrowing now more than they can afford to repay when interest rates go back up. So to have a treasurer go out there and tell people to borrow, I think is very irresponsible, because there'll be a lot of people out there, I fear, and Ed Husick made this point earlier today, that may not be able to repay their mortgage when interest rates go back up.